hoops last night with that loss. Let's dive into it. What was the problem? What's the one thing you can point to, Hunt?
Defense stinks. Awful. Horrendous defense. Really start to finish. And they played man. They sucked at it. Played zone. Sucked at it. Went full court press. Sucked at it. Everything they did was awful defensively. And you let a team that is very offensively challenged get into a rhythm. And
you let a player get his career high like 8 minutes into the game.
2 guys with career highs. And I said on your show yesterday, on Sports Talk in Shreveport yesterday, on the podcast yesterday, my game preview I wrote for BBI yesterday, I said, look, Vanderbilt's not good enough to beat LSU without some sort of statistical anomaly happening, without something that just doesn't happening. If LSU turns it over 26 times or Vanderbilt lights it up from 3, and I think that bore itself out. Vanderbilt needed 2 guys to have a career high. A guy whose career high was like 15 or 16 had 25 in the first half. That's an anomaly. And it wouldn't happen again if they played, but it happened last night, and you got your butt kicked from start to finish. They put a run together because they're better than Vanderbilt, but they played so poorly on the defensive end, 1 through 5, that there was nothing they could do offensively.
There was something that Will Wade said, and Michael Cobble had it on Twitter. Vandy picked on 2 guys last night. They went right at them. They exposed us. We've been hiding some guys, but Vandy exposed us, and Bruce Pearl isn't an idiot. He's going to go right at them. He's calling some players out right there. He wants them to be motivated, obviously. That's a strong statement from your head coach.
It is for sure. I just watched a few highlights when you brought that up about 5 minutes before the show, just trying to figure out who, obviously there's only 2 guys scoring for him. It's Lee and Evans. That's the only guys that scored. And so who were they working on? And I saw a lot of Trenton Watford in the 3-minute highlight tape I just watched. And then I saw a little bit of Skylar Mays as well. Now, Skylar has been tasked with guarding the best perimeter player on the other team, especially early in this year when Marlon wasn't playing. So those are the 2 guys that kind of jumped off. I don't know who he's talking about, though. So I'm certain that if it is Trenton Watford, that's going to be a pretty sobering conversation for him, because he's coming off 26-point game where he makes 9 of his 10 free throws, has some and ones that are really impressive, and then the coach comes off and says, hey, nice job. Those 26 points were cute, but we got killed because nobody played any defense. You're included in that.
Were you surprised they didn't go – they were playing zone. Were you surprised they didn't put Taylor maybe on Vanderbilt's best scorer? And they had 2 guys that got extremely hot, but just to try to stop the bleeding a little bit, the zone defense, like you mentioned in the open, just absolutely wasn't working.
Second time I've watched LSU go into a zone against a hot player. They did it against Brian Tyree in Oxford, and right down the floor, the opposition makes 1 pass to the guy who hadn't missed a shot in an hour, and he makes a 3. And they did that with Evans last night in the first half. They go to zone, and they flip it to him on the left wing, and nobody goes out there. And that's one of those things where you could point to that and go, that's just poor coaching. They're not prepared. But there comes a point in time where when a guy's made 4 threes in 5 minutes, when you get down on defense, I got to find that guy first.
We've actually got Will Wade talking about not being able to stop Vanderbilt on offense.
We were very, very fortunate to be down 5, but they shot it better in the second half. They shot 61% in the second half, and we couldn't stop them. We tried every ball screen coverage we had. We tried every defense we had, every zone. We tried we emptied the entire deal tonight, and we just didn't have it. So this was as disappointing of a game as I've been a part of here at LSU. This was very, very disappointing, and it's my fault. I obviously didn't have us as prepared and mentally ready as we needed to be.
You're about to play a team that can score as good as anybody in the conference in Auburn over the weekend in their gym. This is something, and you mentioned it when we were talking before the show as we're getting ready for the show. Like, this team has stopped good offenses in the past. This isn't every single game out, but if they do what they did in Nashville, you name your score for the Tigers. The Auburn Tigers, that is.
Obviously, the first thing you would point to in this game defensively, if you're just Joe fan watching, is you go, well, you give up too many threes. You can't guard the 3. Well, there's a lot of layers that go into guarding the 3. It's not just, you don't go out there and they just shoot 3s over you. LSU's inability to stop dribble penetration last night was the reason that Vanderbilt scored 99 points. Vanderbilt got to the rim whenever they wanted in the second half, Lee specifically. And whenever they got going in the first half, it was because Vanderbilt was winning off the dribble and kicking it out to open guys who had helped And so there were open shots. But like you said, it's not as if this team is atrocious on defense every time out. Here's just some numbers. Tennessee scored 64 points on them. Arkansas scored 77. That's not like stifling defense, but it's not outlandish. Mississippi State scored 59 points on them. Ole Miss, 76. Texas, 67. Ole Miss, 63. Like, it's not every time out. So, and here's the other part of this game that's really interesting to me. If I would have told you before the game, okay, we'll just throw everything out, but here's the stats that I'm going to focus on. LSU won the rebounding battle 38-30. You'd go, okay, they always do that. LSU got to the free throw line 36 times and shot 78%, which is about what they do. And you shot 47% from the floor. That's kind of LSU's game.
Right.
And they did that. Oh, and you only turned it over 10 times. That's how LSU played its game, essentially, on that end of the floor. They just didn't stop Vanderbilt. So for me, it's not like this massive, huge problem that can't be fixed. It was just you played very poorly. Your effort probably wasn't what it should have been, and you caught a team on a night that they won't have again for a year. They just won't do that again.
You know, something that has worried me throughout this basketball season, and again, I think last night it showed up, 43 bench minutes, 1 point.
Yeah.
You got 1 point from your bench in 43 minutes played between Hyatt, Taylor, and Graves. Not a deep basketball team, and they've gotten away with that. It's been okay. As you get farther along in this season, is that something where you start to get some dead legs because you don't go 8, 9, 10 deep? You feel comfortable LSU going 7 guys. That's right now. And I know they got some injuries and maybe some guys come back. Manning, apparently he had a step back in his progression to continue to try to get back on the court. You get 43 bench minutes and 1 point out of it, that's tough.
Yeah, you know, there's a part of me that says, yeah, that's tough, but the other part of me says, well, they scored 90. So how many do they need to get from their bench?
I agree with you there, but you got to have something. You got to be able to sit guys down when they're gassed, because defensively, when do you give up points a lot of times? When you're gassed, when you don't have somebody coming in. Now, you can score the basketball. That's fine. Everybody's always got a little bit extra juice on the offensive end. That's every level of basketball. But when you're giving up 99 to Vanderbilt, some of that is because, you got to say, hey, we're not very deep. We don't feel comfortable bringing somebody in so Javonte can sit down for 6 minutes. Yeah, I know 6 minutes is long. I'm talking about throughout again. You don't have any. When you look at the minutes played last night, Emmett Williams 34, Wofford played 37, Mays played 30, Smart played 37. So Smart and Wofford both basically sat down for a little over, I think it was like 2 minutes and 47 seconds is what I saw.
Yeah, and then Skyler got in foul trouble again. That's another problem with this team. Days and now Skyler the last 2 games is foul trouble, and that makes you go into your depth, and they just don't have a ton. You've got a couple guys that are on scholarship on your bench that you don't feel comfortable playing, and then you got another one that went out. So that's 3 that are totally unavailable to you. And yeah, it's a bit of an issue. But Skyler led the SEC in minutes last year and was okay. You get a shot of life there as you come down the stretch in March usually. But this is this part of time right when you turn the page of the halfway point of SEC play where you've got to really bring it, and they're playing the toughest teams that they're going to play. I mean, let's get this straight. LSU's not done losing in conference play. This is not going to be just cruise control through the end. There's some more bumps in this road, but that's what makes this one sting is that you had a chance to sock away another win and you didn't get it, and now you turn the page to the tougher stuff. But for me, I think to sum the whole thing up, you did a lot of things that you do well. You just were awful on the defensive end of the floor, and you found a team that was feeling it that day, and you let them get comfortable, you let them get confident, you let them take open shots, and they made you pay. And you saw how much it meant to Vanderbilt. And I hear there's no one in the gym. I had a couple friends that went. They live in Nashville. There's no one there. They haven't won a game in 2 years. And they finished that game off, and they're popping their jersey and going nuts. They're dumping Gatorade on the coach. It meant a lot to them. And you hear the SEC Network guys go, well, you got to feel great for – I don't have to feel great for Jay Stackhouse 1 freaking second, all right? Fine. But it meant a ton to them, and you got their best effort. That's for sure.